wait, if you have any questions for us regarding Jscrambler or what we do, you can always type them in the question box that you can find on your panel. You can always chat with us using the chat box, and you can always talk to each other and share with us your experience in e-commerce, what troubles you in your e-commerce website, and we will try to answer them at the end of this session. We will just wait for another 2 or 3 minutes to let some more people join us, and we will start with our session. So, hello again, everyone. Our 5 minutes are over, so we will start our session. To those of you that joined us in the meantime, welcome. And for those of you who are joining us through a replay on another day, hello. We're now live with this webinar on client-side defenses against e-commerce data breaches. My name is Pedro Canario, and I will be your host today. I want to start by reminding you that this webinar will be very actionable, so after these 30 minutes, you will be able to understand the threats that target e-commerce businesses and how to mitigate them. We have some ground to cover, but before we get started, I want to remind you that we have a question box that you can use at any time, as well as a chat box that you can use. Also, feel free to let us know what type of e-commerce store you have, or if you already have any specific security concerns. We will answer the questions at the end of the presentation or by email if we run out of time. So getting started, I will start by presenting today's speaker. Ricardo Leite is an application security expert at Jscrambler, a leading company in application security. He works closely with major companies from sectors such as finance, broadcasting, and e-commerce, to which he provides security consultancy. Regarding our agenda, it's very straightforward. We will start by framing the current state of security in e-commerce with a special focus on the recent Magecart attacks. Then you will see a short demo of an e-commerce attack and a solution to mitigate it. Finally, we will sum up the main takeaways and take some time to answer your questions. Let me also remind you that because you signed up for this webinar, you will also receive a free threat analysis for your e-commerce website, and you will also be able to schedule a one-on-one meeting with one of our application security experts. Well, now that I've covered our agenda, I will give the floor to Ricardo, so we can start presenting us with an overview of security in e-commerce. Thank you, Ricardo, for joining us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Pedro, for the introduction, and welcome everyone that joined us today. Diving straight into our main subject for the day, we can begin simply by asking why security in e-commerce is so relevant right now. Well, the main reason is Magecart. It's very likely that you have read this name across several headlines since June. In 2018, we have been seeing an increase in cyber attacks targeting e-commerce companies, and Magecart has been identified as the attacker. This hacker group is behind 3 of the biggest attacks to date: Ticketmaster, British Airways, and Newegg. If we dig a little into each attack, we can start understanding why and how hackers are able to breach these major enterprises. We start off in June with this surprising headline. Hackers stole credit card data from 40,000 Ticketmaster customers, many of which were victims of credit card fraud. After discovering the issue, Ticketmaster launched an investigation and identified that the attack exploited a third-party tool developed by Inventa that was being used on their website. This was the vulnerability that hackers exploited. Magecart didn't attack the Ticketmaster servers directly. Instead, they injected their credit card skimmer code into the third-party tool. And because Ticketmaster was loading this code directly, the website immediately started serving the malicious code to clients. Ticketmaster had zero control and visibility over this code, and that's why it took them 2 months to identify the issue. And during these 2 whole months, the malicious code was running in their website and stealing credit card data. Then came September and mediatic attack on British Airways. 380,000 affected customers, again, victims of credit card thefts. When we dig into the attack itself, we find that it is very similar to the attack on Ticketmaster. The British Airways website and mobile app were running Modernizer, which is a JavaScript library, and Magecart was able to inject their credit card skimmer code into the Modernizer script. After the injection, British Airways started serving this code on the website and mobile apps during 2 weeks. And here we can see the culprits, only 22 lines of JavaScript code, which was very effective. It was capable of hijacking the events that happen on the payment page, capture all the credit card information, and send it into an external server that is controlled by Magecart. Much like Ticketmaster, British Airways had no visibility and control over this. At this point, some of you might be thinking that your company's website isn't loading these third-party tools, and so it should be safe from Magecart. But this is far from reality. Here's why. If we consider the development process, we quickly realize that third-party modules are part of a typical integration scenario because they are used to add or extend functionalities. Think about tools for analytics, ads, or UX testing. You may be using some of these on your website. All these tools open door to vulnerabilities, even if you are auditing the third party frequently. But then we have the most recent Magecart attack that came to show us that third-party tools aren't the only way to inject malicious code. This attack may sound familiar to you because it happened just a couple of weeks ago. Magecart was able to compromise the Newegg website and steal credit card data. It's still not known how many customers were affected, but malicious code was active for over a month, and Newegg has 45 million monthly visitors. Again, as you can see on this image, the injected code was very similar to the British Airways attack, but the approach was completely different. No third party was compromised. Magecart actually managed to breach Newegg servers and directly inject the malicious JavaScript code into the payments page HTML. Even though Newegg is fully in control of this code, it still had zero visibility over the attack during a full month. You can imagine that a company the size of Newegg likely has several security systems in place, and yet they failed to prevent and detect the attack in a proper time frame. This is where we are right now. Two different approaches, both capable of running undetected for a long time and causing very significant damages. Okay, we have seen that all three attacks that I mentioned resulted in credit card theft. While this is a very serious result, there are several other threats which are much more common and use the same approach. Even worse, they are likely happening to your e-commerce website right now. One of the most common attacks is this. Some of your customers are not seeing your website as it was designed. I know that this sounds confusing, but on this image, you can see what is happening. They are seeing pop-up ads with price comparisons that are leading them to other stores. This is serious because it's hijacking your traffic and damaging your conversions. And there is a very simple explanation for why this is happening, which is browser extensions. Browser extensions might seem like a small and inoffensive part of our browsers, but they are far more powerful than we think. Most extensions are free, so users can easily download them and keep them active for a long time. And here's the thing. The Chrome Web Store has thousands of free price comparison extensions. We checked some of the top ones, and they have over 40 million installs. You have absolutely no control over the browser extensions that your visitors and clients are using. Yet, these extensions gain full privileges to completely modify your website. This is one of the things you'll see later on during the demo. Well, so far, we detailed 3 attacks that stole credit card data and show that extensions can inject price comparison ads. But how does this impact your e-commerce business? This about sums it up. So first, because your users might be using price comparison extensions, you're likely losing conversions to competitor sites. Then, much like what happened to Ticketmaster, British Airways, and Newegg, your website is probably vulnerable to data breaches that steal your credit card's data. You can be sure that you'll be held liable for these damages, and your reputation can be ruined, since no one will trust you with their credit card data after an attack like this. So all of this is leading to a single question. Is it possible to detect these attacks and react before your clients are affected? As a short answer, yes. We find 3 possible approaches. I will not enter into the technical details, but I will explain what they are and what they achieve. First, we have subsource integrity, or SRI. SRI checks the original scripts that your website is running and blocks them if they are modified. Going back to the attacks we analyzed before, SRI would have stopped the third-party scripts the minute they become compromised. However, SRI has a major pitfall. It's extremely complex to adopt and maintain. And it is easy to understand why. Most third-party tools providers like Inventa keep improving their services, which results on frequent changes to JavaScript source code. SRI would block these updates by default, even if they are not malicious, and this will break the website. Then we have a second approach, which is Content Security Policy, or CSP for short. You may already be familiar with what CSP does. If not, that's not a problem, since I will give you a quick briefing on this. So what CSP does is limit the external sources to which your e-commerce website can connect. Basically, you whitelist the sources you trust, and every other connection will be blocked. CSP will prevent malicious external scripts from being loaded into your web pages, but it also has some drawbacks. Like SRI, it is complex to apply and maintain. Besides that, it can be bypassed by some techniques. All things considered, you should take both SRI and CSP into consideration as a first layer of protection. But the story is different when we add extensions to this equation. Here's the problem. When users install an extension, they grant it full privileges to read and change data on our websites that they visit. This means that a malicious extension is able to remove SRI and CSP which leaves the client side completely vulnerable. Actually, last year at Jscrambler, we created a potential malicious browser extension and published it to the Chrome Web Store as part of our research. Of course, we made sure that this extension wasn't able to actually hack anyone. But the point is that, much like we did, hackers can easily publish a malicious extension that passes all security checks and is publicly available for download. We can then ask this question. What if Magecart decides to use an extension as an attack vector? So a Magecart 2.0 attack. Our research team prototyped this attack, which you can see in this image. This extension is extremely simple to develop, and we are sure that hackers can easily create it. And remember, because it is a browser extension with full privileges, it will be able to bypass SRI and CSP. This means that it will steal credit card data in every e-commerce website that its user visits, not just in 1 or 2 websites. This leads us to a third security approach, real-time web page monitoring. So this approach is fairly different from CSP and SRI. What it does is give you complete visibility over your web page in real time. So whenever a threat is detected, the security system immediately notifies the website admin with precise information about the content and the location of the malicious code. So this is precisely what Jscrambler web page integrity achieves: full visibility over the client side and capability to react in real time to these threats. Web page integrity is able to detect any code injection immediately when they happen. This means that it can detect Magecart, price comparison ads, and every other client-side threat in real time. Because of this, it enables companies to tackle vulnerabilities when they are first detected, preventing further losses. And unlike SRI and CSP, it is easy to adopt and maintain and will not break the website. So now what I'd suggest is to move to our demo so I can show the web page integrity in action. So I believe that you can see now I have an e-commerce store, and on the other tab we have the web page integrity module dashboard. So we already protected, or we included the scripts that will monitor the web page behavior on this sample website, and I will follow a normal flow of purchasing some shoes. So I'll start by going here and select a product. Could be anyone. And as soon as I got to the page where I'm trying to see what I want to buy, we detected that something was injecting a malicious price comparison on the page. So this could happen because an extension was injecting this widget. So we were able to detect it in real time. And if we go here to the dashboard, we can see 2 new threats with all the details about that. So we got a blacklisted injection, and we are able to see the IP address, the user agent, and some other details there. We could also have the session ID retrieved from the cookies of the session. And going into more details, we are able to see the specific script that was injected on the web page. So going back, we also got here DOM tampering, again with the same details, and we are able to see that these images were inserted on the page, and were trying to lead our customer to cheapshoes.com and other competitors. So this is an example of user journey hijacking, and reporting this back allows other security systems to consider this information while computing, for example, a session risk score. As it was already known threat and was previously blacklisted by the website administrator, and because of that, the user will no longer be redirected to the competitor web page. And let's just go back to the web page and continue with the flow. And let's see if we got any more threats. So I need to log in to my web page, adding my credentials. So I see here the product that I want to buy. I will add some details. It doesn't matter. So I'll try to deliver to this address. Now I'm asked for a credit card information. So I could start by adding my name on the card. But before submitting the payment and doing further actions, let's take a look on the dashboard. So as we see here, we got one new threat. And this one is actually a zero-day threat. So it is an example of credit card credential set. So this is detected before the data is submitted. So the backend server may prevent users from proceed with payments affected by this attack. This is one of the possible integration with systems currently in place, combining visibility over client-side threats and risk assessment techniques. So some countermeasures in this case could be to terminate the user session, disable the payments details input fields, or even render a warning message in the user interface. Let's take a look on the details on this injection. Again, the same IP address. If we go to the details, we can see a very similar attack with what happened with British Airways. So we can see that the submit event was changed, and the attacker is actually trying to search for the forms, for the form fields, is storing in an object, and then sending that object to an external API. So in this case, the event will not be stopped, so the event will propagate as it should be, but still the attacker will be able to send the credit card information to an external API. So I believe that it was easy to identify the possible threats because from a user's perspective, everything is happening normally, but behind the scenes, could be malware on the computer, a malicious extension, or a third-party library that was compromised that is injecting this code on the web page and stealing data and hijacking the user session. So this was our demo, and I believe that we are ready now to wrap up this webinar with today's main takeaways. So first, it becomes clear that your e-commerce website is likely vulnerable to client-side attacks. Existing security systems fail to prevent attacks, and they can remain undetected for long. These attacks put your conversions and reputation at stake and leave you liable for data breaches. CSP and SRI should be considered, but as we have been seeing, they are complicated to adopt and maintain. This leads us to web page monitoring, a solution that gives you full visibility over attacks that affect the client side and enables you to react in real time. Pedro, if you want to continue with the further questions.
Yes, thank you, Ricardo, for this session and your time. And now that we've covered the client-side attacks on e-commerce websites and showed you guys this demo, we will take a few minutes, like Ricardo said, to answer some questions or comments that you might have. Feel free to share them in the question box if you haven't done so already, or in the chat box, and we will have a short Q&A session now. Thank you. So we have a question from Zach Davis, who is asking, you mentioned third parties that can be compromised and how that affects e-commerce pages. You want to elaborate on that? Shouldn't it be the responsibility of third-party tool providers to protect against these attacks? What's your opinion about it?
Thank you very much, Zach, for the question. It's actually interesting. A short answer is that in some cases, even these third-party libraries don't have visibility on what's happening. So we saw that hackers can access directly their servers and add malicious code there. Of course, third-party libraries should be responsible for this, but it is something you shouldn't completely trust, as we saw that this can fail.
So I hope that answers your question, Zach. We also have another question from Vlad, who is asking, does source code of website need to be somehow marked up for Jscrambler to work properly? Is any preparation needed?
Hi, Vlad. There's no preparation on your code needed. Regarding the integration, I can give you a quick briefing on that. So the only thing that you need to add on your web page could be a script tag with a script that will be loaded on the web page, as you do with Google Analytics, for instance. So you just need to add that script tag on your web page that will start monitoring the DOM of the website. On the other hand, there is a virtual machine that you can install in your premises. And that will be basically to display the dashboard with all the threads there. So I believe that is very straightforward to integrate that. There's no preparation that you need on your website regarding changing how you develop the website. This is just one way to integrate the web page integrity module. There is one extra step that you can do, which is basically adding this script and obfuscated together with the JavaScript source code that you already have. So basically, all the logic for this embedded agent will be mixed with your JavaScript code, so the attackers will not be able to recognize if any of these tools working.
So, Nicholas, thank you first for your question, but just to answer Vlad first, to wrap it up, I'm going to read his question. So Vlad asks, does it work with React, Angular code, etc. that modifies DOM a lot?
Yeah, it does. So normally the web page integrity starts with a POC phase where basically the script will have a machine learning behavior that will learn how the DOM should behave in a safe environment. After that, all of the other DOM changes will be monitored and reported on the dashboard so that you can profile them as critical or not.
We hope that answers your question. So going back to Nicholas' question, he asks, what are the main security issues that you would address for us for SPA or single page application marketplace?
So I believe that it will work exactly as any other web page application. So the threat framework will be the same. But I can send you more information after the webinar. I'll be glad to discuss this with more detail in a one-on-one session, for instance.
And just as a reminder, for those of you attending us, you will be able to enjoy a one-on-one session with one of our application security experts, so you can dive in further into any questions that you might have. And we hope, Nicholas, that your question was answered. Moving forward to James, he's asking, does this only work with e-commerce?
The answer is no. So it works in every sector. As long as you want to make sure that the integrity of your web page is always kept, either for preventing customer session hijacking, credit card theft, or reputation issues, As long as you have a website with this sensitive data that you want to protect, it will work the same way.
We hope this answers your question. So going on to Vlad, he's asking how much training is required for Jscrambler to learn more normal behavior.
Yeah, so typically a 2-week period is enough, but we take case-by-case approach.
Well, thank you. So we hope that clears it up. If you have any more questions, please ask them. So Vlad is asking if the library we use on the page changes, we need to retrain Jscrambler for 2 weeks again?
Yeah, so you should let us know that, but a short answer for that is can you hear me? Yeah. So a short answer is that you should let us know, but the changes on the DOM will not be so significant. We are always take in consideration, and we are always connecting with your system, and also with your team. So basically, we take it a very close relationship with them.
Well, we hope that answers your question, Vlad. And going back to Nicholas, he's asking, was this webinar recording to play it again? Yes, Nicholas, it was, and you can rewatch it anytime that you want. And you can always talk to us if you have any questions. If Vlad is typing. Vlad is asking if this is a SaaS or on-premises solution.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, it will work with an on-premise solution. So we'll give you a virtual appliance that you can install in your premises. And the integration is very straightforward, as I told before.
I'm seeing that Vlad is typing. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, so we will only answer this last question from Vlad. If any one of you has any further questions, you can always write to us, like we've mentioned before, and you can always schedule your one-on-one meeting with our experts. So Vlad is asking if he can use it for mobile apps.
Yes, you can, as long as you are as the coding. So basically, the code protection works for all situations, and the web page integrity is only for the web.
Well, we hope that clears it up, and thank you, all of you, for joining us today. Like I've mentioned before, talk to us at any time if you have any questions, and get in touch with us to schedule your one-on-one session. You will receive an email very soon with all of this information, so keep an eye on your inbox. Thank you for joining us, and make sure to protect your e-commerce platforms. Have a good day.